Because you will all be familiar by now with the statue, the Colston statue, and the kind of case that went on there, and the verdict of not guilty that came back in terms of criminal damage on that case. And I found that verdict quite interesting. Obviously, it's gone through the court of law, and it is what it is for now. But it did kind of get me thinking, would that have a knock-on effect when it comes to what other people think that they can and cannot do for statues of people that they find distasteful or they don't like? The reason I'm mentioning this now is because we saw another instance of attempted statue removal just yesterday, and a man has been arrested for scaling a statue outside the BBC's broadcasting house in London. The guy began bashing the statue that was sculpted by Eric Gill, who is said to have sexually abused two of his daughters. You know, I saw the footage of this. It's really doing its rounds on social media. Many of you might have seen it for yourself. I wonder, what are your thoughts? I'm going to start with you, James, on this one. What do you think to this? Well, and I want to make it clear, by the way, I'm not necessarily sitting here with nothing better to do than focus on statues. I'm focusing more on the concept of, should you be able to... Have we now got an open season on basically people saying, well, look at him, he's done this and he's done that, so down it comes? Is that the kind of society we want to be in? Is it right?
Definitely not. And I think, you know, I'm on the left, but I think the left's willingness to believe that when the cause is right, anything goes, is really irresponsible. And I think what they've created, actually, Michelle, is a society where Eric Gill is now better known for his child abuse than for his graphic design. He was a leader of 20th century graphic design. I use every day Gill Sans as a typeface.
Fonts, yeah.
What am I supposed to do? Think, oh, well, that was tainted by Eric Gill, so I've got to change it back to Times Roman now. That's the sort of censorious atmosphere we have.
Yeah, but the difference is, I mean, I'm showing the footage, by the way, of the guy, you know, whacking it there with his hammer or chisel or whatever it is. But the difference is there, what you're saying, James, you're talking about a font that you'd use. This is like a statue there, basically honouring him.
Yeah, but, you know, his achievements have to be separated from the man. That's very unfashionable to many feminist cohorts today. But it has to be said that he was a giant of graphic design and a brilliant sculptor. His acts to his children and lovers were utterly despicable, and there's no contest. We don't want to be involved in a contest as who can outbid each other by removing more of the statue or more of his typefaces as we possibly can. The atmosphere is completely denying his achievements and simply goes on about his misdeeds. It's very destructive.
Charlotte, James is saying there that the achievements should be separate from the man. And basically, are you saying that those statues should remain in situ? Yeah, so there you go. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't know what it's got to do with feminism. I think probably abusing your daughters is a human issue,
sure.
But I'm sure that's not what you were at all.
Some feminists insist that the artist, if he has done wrong, can no longer be considered as an artist.
I don't think
that's a mistake.
Specific.
I said some feminists.
We're probably digressing here, though. So to
quite important. It's the main issue.
I think. I'll not pick that up. I'll focus on the statue. I think the first thing to say is that I think if you're vandalising public or private property, if you're damaging something, then I'm trying to be very careful on the legal terms, as Michelle, you pointed out, but I don't understand how that isn't a crime and how you shouldn't, and therefore why you wouldn't be prosecuted. And if we think the law only applies to certain things because we agree with them or disagree with them, then I think we're in very, very, very dangerous water. That said, there clearly is a discussion to be had because an awful lot of people want to have it. And, you know, if we live in a democracy and we believe in free speech and we believe in, you know, exploring lots of different perspectives and views, we should have those conversations. And if there's a majority that feel uncomfortable about a particular statue, then I don't feel massively strongly about saying, well, if the majority wants it taken down in a legitimate way, it should be. But I do think it's interesting that we are fixating, I mean, almost to your point, James, on the font question here, that we are fixating on statues in this. And, you know, we were having a conversation before we came on about why, for example, we've got films produced by people who have been convicted of pretty awful things, you know, whether it's Weinstein or Roman Polanski, or you know, think of John Lennon, who's a self-declared kind of domestic abuser, but we don't kind of call into question his music. So I think we need to at least move away from this narrow understanding. But criminal acts are criminal acts and should be treated as such.
Amy?
I think we're slightly jumping to conclusions here. There is nothing to indicate this man won't be prosecuted for this act of vandalism. I suspect that he will, at the very least, be prosecuted. Whether he is found guilty, obviously up for, to be seen, I guess. I thought it would be a sort of freezing over of hell situation when I agreed with Jacob Rees-Mogg. But in the instance of the Colston Four, I think we should remember it was not the left or feminists who found them innocent. It was a jury, an independent jury of members of the public who sat in a courtroom and heard dispositions that we did not hear. So I think we need to be careful about jumping to conclusions on this case correlating with others. I think, Charlotte, your point about the conversation of the art and the artist is one for another time, Michelle.
Indeed, one for another time, indeed, because we're almost off air. Tim has been in touch saying, yes, this whole statue thing does matter. Culture matters, and our culture is under attack from within and without, so you bet it matters. Lots of you in touch about the pension thing. Ray says, state pension is not a benefit. I paid national insurance for 50 years, never lived off the state at all. Christine says, I do not class £162 a week as me being rich. I have no heating here as I cannot afford to replace my boiler. Christine, that story makes me very sad. You should Google. I know that there is at least one plumber who offers free plumbing services to people that are vulnerable and can't afford to do. Google that if you get a second. Anyway, that is all I've got time for tonight. Charlotte, Amy, James, thank you for your company on the panel and thank you for your company at home.